Something special here today. We are at a thing that's near and dear to me about bringing some of our old ways back, and I'm with Veronica Pipestem, and she is bringing some of the old heirloom corns back. And so I'm just going to stand here and turn it over to her and let her tell you a little bit about what she's doing, what her passion is, and why she's doing this. So, Veronica, if you'll tell us a little bit, and then what we'll do is I'll pick the camera up in a moment, and we'll walk in, and you can show us hand-on what you're doing, because I saw that you were tasseling a while ago, right? Okay, so tell everybody a little bit about you and what you're doing here.
Yeah, so I'm Veronica Pipestem, and I'm Oto, Missouri, and Osage, and I grow, well, right now I'm growing Osage Big Horse Spotted Corn. So it's something that, it's an heirloom, it's an Osage corn, it's an open pollinated variety. It's a flour corn, so, you know, big, huge, you make hominy out of it, you can grind it up into flour, those kinds of things. And so anyway, I planted first, second, third weeks in May. The first thing I'm interested in is I planted this up here first, and then I kind of progressively moved back. And these folks back here have talked to one another, and they're tasseling and silking at the same time. Doesn't matter that they've been planted 2 to 3 weeks apart. They figured it out, and these ones grew faster so that they could all be doing this at the same time.
That way they kind of cross-pollinate themselves.
Yes, so yeah, because you definitely share pollen with the other ones. Some of them will tassel, and some of them don't have enough pollen on them, so you get them from other plants for sure.
So tell us a little bit about this program, because you're not growing this corn to make flour yourself.
Yeah, I am. I want to eat it. Yeah, that's food and first and foremost for me. And so I am in the works of starting a nonprofit, and I do work for another nonprofit called Braiding the Sacred, and it's a network of Indigenous corn growers, and we steward a collection of seed that was left. We inherited the late Carl Barnes seed, and so our job is just to get it back to its home communities, and so we do a lot of that work. But we also try to be supportive of people who do this work as well, because we know it's tough, and this stuff doesn't behave like GMO corn. It just isn't going to do that. And
that's good.
Yes, we want that. And it does a lot of really cool stuff. But so that's the first thing I do. And then the other thing that I'm working on a nonprofit for is to do more of a local or regional food systems, is to help Native people reconnect with their foods and regrow relationships with their foods and the land that they grow the foods on. So, because those are one and the same, they're not any different. But we've lost access to our foods, and that's what I have said in the past. I've worked with some paleoethnobotanists and different folks like that, and I've said, you have more access to our seeds than we do.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so that's the irony of all this, is that you can more easily get seed that we have stewarded and grown for thousands of years than we can get anymore.
And not only the seed, but we've lost the knowledge. The knowledge has been forgotten on how to do it.
Yeah, that's true, and I think the best way, and everybody wants to study this corn and do all kinds of stuff with it, and that's what I tell people, is the best way to study this corn is to grow it, to put it in the ground.
Yeah.
To seed bank it is one thing, but that's a means to it. It's not the end in and of itself. You do want to have seed stock, but the best seed bank you can have is getting it in the ground and growing it. Yeah.
Now, you said, okay, you will eat some of this corn here. Will you make flour, hominy? What will you make? What will you do with it?
I'm probably going to make hominy out of it. And so I'll keep it in a dry state until I nixtamalize it, and then we'll use it for hominy. So we'll put it in soups. I might grind some up and into a flour and save it, just depending on how much space. Thus far, I've just been saving for seed stock. So this year, I think I'm actually going to eat some. Okay. And I've been doing this for 8 years. So
this is your first year to maybe eat some. You've been doing it for 8 years. So see, guys, I want you to understand that this is a labor of love, because it takes time. You just don't go out there and just pop it in and do it. And we're out here today. I'm here to help her, if possibly I can, get her electric fencing working again, because her raccoons or something's coming in here and decimating the corn. So we're going to try to keep those out, and so be able to protect this corn a little bit. So I'm going to go grab the camera and let you walk around and tell us a little bit about this corn, okay?
So, I moved to a bigger plot last year. So this is the largest plot I've worked in. So not, not huge. I do have, I own a business and have a full-time job on outside of what I do here in my other life, as I say. But, and what's interesting is I had really splotchy germination this year. So as you can see, this germinated really well. There's these huge holes in the middle where there's just nothing germinated. And I do think that may have been because I planted in May and it just rained the entire month of May. So I may have had some washout. I'm on a slope, as you can tell. But I'm getting ready to plant another type of corn in here. It's a sweet corn called Mohawk Black Sweet Corn. So I'm going to try to grow 2 types of corn in this little spot this year.
Now, are you going to be worried about cross-pollination?
No, because as you can see, these are pollinating right now.
Yeah.
And so there's no danger of them, if I plant seedlings now, of them cross-pollinating at
Okay.
this point. Because these are already doing what they need to be doing in terms of that. So by the time the other ones get grown, these will have long been, the pollen will no longer be fertile and good. So.
Now, let me ask you a question. I know I lived on the Dene reservation for a short time, and corn pollen is sacred to the Dene. Is it with the Osage?
We don't have a lot of teachings about that corn pollen in and of itself. The one thing that I do know about this corn is that the pollen is special. I will say that. It's something that I think it's a really special time to be here, is when this pollen is active and live and it's doing its thing. So I can't say too much more about that on camera, but I will say that much, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so we're silking here. So there's the silks. This year I've got a lot of yellow, which is interesting. And maybe because I don't have enough genetic diversity, because I don't have, I say I have 100, 150 plants out here. Last year I had 300, and I had pink and purple and white and green pollen and anthers, and it was really amazing. So this year it just seems like I have kind of the same uniform color, which is okay too. This will all produce seed or food, whichever one. And that's one of the things that we were, the buddies of mine that helped me grow corn, because I'm less than 10 years into growing, so I talk to a lot of folks that have done this a lot longer than I have. And well, yeah, you can see right there, there's a pink one. It's kind of pinkish. But yeah, last year I had some wild stuff going on out here with the pollen colors. And I had silks that were bright red and pink and purple. And but I think because I have less out here this year, I just don't have as much genetic diversity. And so, yeah, we're silking. So I do hand pollinate with the small number of plants that I have. I feel like that's important to do. Got some aphids. Been working on that with the diatomaceous earth. And
I've got something for you for that.
Okay, I've been dusting
and it's
them
organic
with DE, with diatomaceous earth, but as you can see, it's all over my leaves and stuff. But it doesn't seem to have done a ton of. Well, I think they're reduced, but.
Let me ask you a question. You were talking about the different colors of pollen, and that different colors of pollen will, when that ear comes out, you'll have different colors of corn kernels in that, from those different colors of pollen, correct?
Yes, but it doesn't always match what comes out doesn't match the silks or the pollen.
We're just knowing that that's genetic diversity in the pollen.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
So big horse is in any combination of purple, white, red, orange, and speckled, in any combination of those colors.
Okay.
So that's what the cobs look like when they come out. And so I've been getting a lot of purple, and then I got black too last year. So I got some black.
Black's unusual, isn't it?
I don't know. I have no idea if it is or not. The other thing that I find interesting about this corn is that I had an ear of dent corn that came out of it and an ear of sweet corn that came out of it. So it's going to give you what you need. Um, but I gave the ear of dent corn away actually not too long ago. So.
Well, that's probably where dent corn came from to begin with, because these are all heirloom plants, and they selected for that. They pulled that and did it. So,
Yeah.
okay.
So then, as you can see here, we've got a lot of, I've had grasshoppers out the wazoo this year, and
Yeah.
they've done a fine job of chewing on the plants, but the plants don't seem to be too bothered by it. In fact, there's one down here, actually, I think it was this one, that it was just a nub. It was just a stalk.
Oh, yeah. They got after that one.
Yeah, it's managed to grow, and they've even chewed on the. So we'll see if it's going to grow an ear or not. I don't know. The stalk still looks pretty healthy, in spite of all the chewing that it's kind of undergone. Here's something that's interesting that goes on here. I think I saw it. Yeah, with heirloom. Do you see this silk right here coming out of the?
See if I can get that camera in there to see that.
There's a silk, like a single silk strand. So I'm probably going to get a kernel on the tassels.
On the tassels.
Yeah, that happens with big horse, or at least it happens with me. I don't know. So other people can grow this and it may not happen, but I have 4 or 5 plants that have this going on with it this year. And you'll get seed from there.
Now, see, that's just cool. That's biodiversity right there.
Yeah, there's a couple other plants and that are like that I've noticed. As you can see, I've had lots of raccoon issues or skunks or something that's taller. That's been because it just seems too tall for a rabbit.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you. I see how many seeds are you generally planting in a small space in a planting? What, 4, 5, 6, or? Because at times I see where there's clumps.
Yeah, they like clumps.
Yeah.
They don't mind it at all. In fact, it helps them as a windbreak, and it helps with pollination too. And so it really depends on when I'm planting. Sometimes I'll put 3 to 4 seeds in a hole. And this year I did something different. Last year I mound planted, and so I handmade all these mounds in this plot. But this year, because of the rain and me getting a kind of a late start, my original intent was to plant with about this much space in between plantings, and then go back in with my wheel hoe and hill it. That never happened because the soil was just so wet.
We were wet forever.
So it's pretty flat out here where these things are growing. But I think they like to be mounded, as you can tell. Like the roots are coming out the top.
Yeah.
And I really would rather have some dirt on them. But didn't happen this year. So they seem to be doing fine. These guys, I think, are used to, they're pretty tough. And they're pretty impervious to wind. If you can see, they've been knocked over multiple times. I'm trying to find a good one. And they just kind of pick themselves up.
I've seen that.
Yeah, I don't, there's one over here, yeah, but you can't really see it from probably in the camera. But it's curved. Because it's picked itself up from being completely knocked over. It's
Yeah.
a squash, but, so yeah, this is, and this is the genetic diversity too. Everybody wants big, tall corn. I don't. I want multiple sizes of corn, because that's how it's actually supposed to be, is that there's not every corn is tall. Of course, I got 8 to 10 foot stalks over here, and then I've got little bitty guys over there, and I kind of like it that way. So
Well, the taller the stalk, the more energy has to go into the vegetative state of it, and that means less energy into making an ear of corn too.
yeah, and
So there's a trade-off.
yes, and I think that there was some heat stress going on here as well. So some of these didn't get as tall as they normally would, because yeah, last year everything was 8 to 10 feet tall, and typically they're that big. But oh, you can even see bite marks on this one. Maybe you can tell me what this is. Oh, and that's my Chenopodium. There we go. Oh. Can you tell what that is? Something just took a
When we get through
good,
filming, let me get down on the ground.
okay, good bite out of
Okay.
that one. But yeah, oh yeah, and
And
here's
I'll
one
see if
that's
I
been
can
knocked over
find what's left of any tracks.
and chewed, but it's still growing.
Yeah.
So I just leave it alone, and if it's totally dead, it goes in the dead pile there. But
In the compost.
yeah, and I just kind of leave stuff in here to overwinter too, so it kind of breaks down. And
Yeah.
so 2 years ago, I did a lasagna garden on this spot. So I put down cardboard and then had a dump truck's worth of composted manure laid on top of that, and then put a cover crop in. You probably still see radishes, yeah,
Yeah.
somewhere. Those are my cover crop, one of my cover crops, and just let it overwinter that way. So this soil has definitely been amended, and it's into its second year of kind of soaking into the rest of the dirt. It's never been tilled. Well, we did go in with a mantis and just fluff stuff
Fluff
up.
it.
Yeah, before I planted this year, which is fun because I think that's what gave me all this crabgrass.
It may
It's
have.
everywhere. Uh, but it did need to be kind of cultivated before I planted. So yeah, so this is the big horse. I did plant some beans here, but the rabbits or something
Got
got
'em.
them all. I'm gonna replant as
And I
soon
see
as
you've got squash going over there too, right?
Yes, this is a Calabacita squash.
Okay.
I've never grown squash before, so this will be my first time doing that.
Well, I'm impressed that you've got squash, and I didn't see any squash bugs.
Oh, they're on there.
They are?
I mean, I've been picking them off. I've tried lollipopping, which is what my cousin told me to do. And it seems like when I lollipop them, do you know what that is? Where you just cut anything below the fruit off?
Yeah.
It just pruned them, and they grew more leaves.
When I've seen people put them in tomato cages
Uh-huh.
and bring them up in tomato cages and lollipop them that way, and they say it helps.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm not real sure because again, this is the first year of growing squash. I don't know if I'll grow squash again anytime soon. But
Squash is always a fall garden for me.
yeah.
Don't fight the squash bugs. Just plant it when they're not around.
Okay.
That's what I do.
So fall by like July or August?
Yeah,
Or?
probably in August I'll be putting squash
Okay.
in the ground, and then I'll get a fall. Seem like they always do better in a fall crop, for
Okay.
me anyway.
I'll do that because much rather, and I like winter squash actually more than I do summer squash.
Well, I'll grow zucchini and crookneck too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, in the fall?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, like you said, that you're going to do another planting of corn, and essentially you're going to bring in a fall crop of corn.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Might as well, because yeah, I'm still figuring out how to manage the grass underneath all this squash because I don't know how to get it to not. There's nothing you can do. I'm trying to train it too, so I keep pulling it when it grows out. That one's gotten out of hand, but the training's worked pretty well in terms of getting it to spiral, but it makes it harder to tell where things are.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
which vine they're attached
Yeah,
to.
the more concentrated you get it, it also makes it harder to pick too, because you got to tiptoe through the squash.
Yeah, and
So
I'm stepping on things. So I haven't been as diligent with this squash as I should have. But then back here, I don't know if you can see it very well. These two plants, that's called Chenopodium berlandieri.
okay.
And these are, this is a stand that's established itself since last year. And so they came up on their own. That baby set over there was this year's seed.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just trying to get a stand established in here and intercrop them in between my corn so I don't have to weed as much. But what it is it's called, again, Chenopodium berlandieri. So it is a cousin of the Incan quinoa that you see on the shelves.
Yeah.
This was domesticated in every mound city in the Mississippian era and probably before. So it's a very old crop, but it's fallen out of domestication. And so it no longer grows, like it's no longer seed saved, but there's these paleoethnobotanists that I think are lovely folks. And they're studying and have done work with this. There's this woven twined bag that was found in a bluff in Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
it's full of Chenopodium and squash seed. So they said it's about a liter of seed. So they know people were saving this for
Yeah.
seed and they were selecting. What's interesting about this is that since it's fallen out of, because it hasn't been domesticated for 1,000 years, basically, um, these two ladies are particularly interested in looking at if people start to grow them in a domesticated way, how long does it take for them to respond and show the traits of people seed saving them and growing them in plots rather than growing wild. So like what's the outside? It's a pericarp on corn, but it's a thick coating.
Coating. Yeah.
They've grown that since they were rewilded again, just as a protection mechanism. And the ones that they had studied in that bag and different places that they found deposits of them have had really thin coating on the outside. And so that's how they know people were selecting and seed saving and doing things like that with them. So we'll see, but I'm excited to see this back here in,
When should they flower?
I don't know. That's where mine last year, because they're at the base of this plot, they got washed out every time they were big enough to do that, and then something just came and I think it was the deer.
Got them.
Yeah. So this year they came
They
up
know
by
what's
themselves.
good.
Yeah. These over here look a little different, but I think I threw some blood meal around them too, and they kind of like
Yeah,
that.
see, at first glance, I thought those were lamb's quarter at first glance.
That's a different species. So
You know?
this is Berlandieri, and I think lamb's quarters are Chenopodium album or something like that. So they look a lot alike, but the whole plant's edible. The stalk, the seeds, and the leaves. And the interesting thing about these, now that they're wild again, is that buffalo are the primary seed carriers for these. The lady, again, her name is Natalie Mueller. You can look at her work. She's out of Washington University. She goes and collects these kinds of seeds, not just these, but what they're called Eastern Agricultural Complex crops, which are Chenopodium, maygrass, Iva annua or sumpweed, sunflower. That's one that everyone would know. That's it was heavily domesticated, and oh gosh, there's 7 of them. You can look up Eastern Agricultural Complex crops and find them all, but she collects and studies these, but she's more partial to the Chenopodium. But what she's found is that she can go and follow a buffalo trail in the prairies ecosystems, and those Eastern Agricultural Complex crops are divided into 2 kinds, the starchy and the oily. So this is a starchy seed. And they don't need as much water as the oily, like the marshy ones, but so that they'll deposit along the trail, and so you can find plants like this growing in tallgrass prairie areas or any bison ecosystem, and then when they wallow, they create a marsh for the other ones, and those go in there.
Well, now that's pretty cool.
So
That's
yeah.
I grew up in Paris, Texas, and outside Paris, Texas, there's a huge plot of land out there that is covered. Now this is East Texas. It's covered in mesquite trees. And people, why are those mesquites way in East Texas and everything? Well, they just happened to be the part where there was a station for the Chisholm Trail, and when they brought all the cattle in, they had been in West Texas eating mesquite beans, and they put them in like lots before they shipped them, and so they pooped all the beans out.
Oh, okay.
Same thing that the buffalo were doing, carrying those seeds with them and distribute them. You know,
Yeah.
everything in nature works together. It's just, but that is pretty cool,
Isn't it cool?
that they followed the buffalo trails, and you can still follow those today by looking at the plants.
Yep, and so that's where she goes and collects seed. Is she'll go out to these prairies, and she'll get that, and it's an easy way to get through that tall grass too.
Yeah.
You know, they've created a path there, and that's how she's learned this over time. Is she was going to river bottoms and riverbeds, and you can find them there too, but she said the best place to go is as a buffalo trail, and their wallows.
Yeah.
That's where you'll have a lot of these seeds coming out, and so. I planted maygrass in here too, but I don't know if it so you have to cold stratify it to get it to germinate because it's still wild.
Yeah.
And so I did that, but these germinated before the other stuff did. So I think there was maygrass and I can't remember which one snuck in on me. I didn't mean to put it in there. I thought it was another package of the Chenopodium. And but none of them have come up, but maybe next year they will. And the other thing that I've learned about these, or at least for me, they need thunder.
Really?
Mm-hmm. They'll come up real fast after a good thunderstorm.
After a good thunderstorm.
Mm-hmm. That I don't
That
know.
is cool.
Yeah, I don't know what that was the same thing with this little stand that I had back there last year. Is I cold stratified them. They never germinated in the fridge. And I had to go on a trip with my corn people for braiding the sacred for a week. I had to go to actually Dene country,
Uh-huh.
and nothing. So I thought, well, my luck, they'll germinate and rot when I'm gone. So I threw them out in the base of this plot, and nothing, nothing, nothing. When I came back, there was nothing. And then I remember mid-June there was this full weekend of like horrid thunderstorms. Well, everybody calls them that. I like them, but really big thunder. There were 9 of them that came up overnight, and they were this tall. So they like
and people
thunder.
believe that plants are not sanctioned beings. I don't think so.
Yeah, I think, and so that, and I've heard that there is some corn that likes thunder too. So, but yeah, mine doesn't seem mine this year. These germinated in 3 days.
Oh my gosh.
They came up really fast. So
Well, speaking of thunder,
yeah,
we got
ready.
clouds, so
Yeah.
I would like to come back and let's do some more of this.
Okay.
But right now, we probably need to get to work.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
Veronica,
sorry, I'm gonna keep moving around.
Veronica, thank you for sharing your knowledge
Yeah.
and your passion with us. And
Well, I'm just a beginner. I will say that. There's a lot of people that I rely on that know way more than I do. So, and I've been very fortunate that I have some people at my beck and call, text, that are just gracious enough to answer all my dumb questions. So.
well, I'd like to get back over here when maybe you harvest or you start, pulling the kernels off the cobs, things like that, and show folks what it's produced and everything. So we want to do a little follow-up about this and try to get this word out to everyone.
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. If you like this, be sure to like and subscribe. Let us know. Leave some comments below. Maybe you're growing some of these old heirlooms, and let us know what you've been doing with them. Okay. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.